Jones, who films the art class that I take on a Thursday morning in Penrell Church in Caerphilly, suggested it might not be a bad idea if I give some simple tips on just starting off in acrylic. And one of the first problems people get when they start in acrylic painting is that it dries so quickly. When you put it on the canvas, it can dry and you can't blend it. You've got to be so quick. Now there are ways to get around that, and the ways I have found, but I'll share with you a few tips. The first is get a little canvas. Now this is what we use on in the art group. Now that is only £1. That's all paid for that canvas. Amazing, isn't it, really? You can get them so cheap today. In one of these cheap shops, you get £1. And once you've got the canvas, it can be quite porous, and so it dries quickly. So a way around that is to coat it with gesso paste. Now that's gesso paste. Have that in the range. You can get it online, of course. And that tub will last me about 5 years. So although it's a bit expensive, it lasts. Because with the art group, I prime all the canvases for them, so it's not going to last me 5 years. But that's it inside, and it's a bit like consistency of sort of watered down polyfiller, really. And all I do then is get a plain canvas. This is a larger one I'll be working on today now. And I've primed it. I've brushed that gesso paste all over, done it quite thickly. And then I put it down to dry. Leave it for a good few hours until that dries off. And then what I do, I get a rag with water, dip it in the water, dip it in sienna, in burnt sienna, which is like a brownish red. And then I rub that completely over the canvas, and that's again one I've done. And that way you take the white off the canvas and it doesn't show through. So if that's coming through the painting, it doesn't matter really. So I tend to tone it. It's only a rag and a bit of water, a bit of burnt sienna acrylic. And that's what I paint on. Never changes, that's what I paint on. Find that, for me, that's the best ground to work on. And that way acrylic doesn't dry too quickly. Now another tip is, with the gesso, I take a bit of gesso, say half and half, mix it with the acrylic white. And this takes longer to dry than the acrylic. And that means then you got more time before it dries. And it gives the acrylic a bit of a thicker consistency as well. So that's the actual board. Now, if you just take that on board, that'll save you no end in starting with acrylics. It's the first hurdle you've got to get over. And then in terms of the actual paint I use, don't go berserk with the colours. Those are my colours mainly. White, and then it's cadmium yellow, and then it's raw sienna, then it's light red, then it's burnt sienna, which is a browny red, and then burnt umber for a brown, and then ultramarine blue, and then cerulean blue, which I tend to mix with this other blue, mix them together a little bit for skies. Want a nice blue, I'll put them together for the blue coming through the cloud. But that's the order I put them in, from light right through to blue at the end. And then it's all a matter of mixing. And now, again, a problem you have with acrylic, when you finish painting, that can all go in the bin, because within half a day that will be rock hard, that will have dried. So the way to get around that is, my palette is an old cutting board really, which again I won't pay £1 for in one of the cheap shops, and I can hold it like that, and that's easy enough. And what I've done, I've put a bit of plastic on top. And I'll show you why now. What some places have, and some people use, is what's called a wet stay. It's called a wet palette, where you've got that there, and you just take that off, and there's blotting paper inside, and the blotting paper there, and there's some greaseproof paper on top. And then you put that cover on, and that will stay dry. Now, for myself, an easier option is that I've just used some plastic there, and then when I've finished, what I'll do, I bought again a cheap tub from again a cheap shop, and what I've done, I've put some sponge in the bottom and wet it, and then that acetate sheet, the plastic, I'll take off and I'll put in there, and I'll put the lid on, and that paint will keep for about a month. There'll be no problem there, that will keep for about a month. And so basically that's all you're talking about. Brushes, well, always use bigger brushes than what you think. It's a bit like Jaws, isn't it? Was it Robert Shaw said, we're going to need a bigger boat. Well, you need a bigger brush, always bigger than what you think, and that way you'll cover areas a lot quicker. And David asked if I could just show how I finish off a painting, because when I do a whole painting, obviously you're going at it, and I leave the finishing touches to the last. So he asked me, could I just show like something like with rocks or with sheep, and how I would finish a painting. So behind me is what I'm working on, and that's Acrylic up in North Wales, up in Snowdon. And so I've got rocks to go in the foreground as a lead in. And so in the next session, I'll just show you how to put rocks in and finish them off.